Okay, you're watching Live Now. I'm Austin Westfall, getting some news in from the Wall Street Journal. They say that the Trump administration is increasingly pessimistic about a nuclear deal with Iran. They say it's a rare admission that a core Trump goal might not happen peacefully. All right, let's break this down with retired Marine Intelligence Officer, national security analyst, and the host of the Strap podcast, Hal Kempfer. Hal is here with us. Okay, so this just came out from the Journal. I wanted to make sure I got your take on this, Hal. They say that the White House is increasingly pessimistic about a nuclear deal with Iran. Hal, if we could put this in our own words, isn't that the entire point of this entire conflict to begin with? So if they say that the administration is increasingly pessimistic about this type of deal, doesn't that mean they're increasingly pessimistic about the whole point they went to the fight in the first place?
Well, a couple of things, and I'll break it down in just a second. But yeah, that was a stated goal for going to war with Iran, was to end their nuclear ambitions. So, but I find the key word in that phrase, peacefully, at the very end, which is kind of goes to why we went to war with Iran, which was we weren't getting anywhere through the diplomatic channels. And certainly, if you look at what's happened this week, it has not boded well for our ability to negotiate with Iran, or that Iran is negotiating in good faith, or that Iran will follow through on whatever it's agreed to. That's why we're back in kinetic warfare with them. So if you look at it that way, I think the White House has every reason to be skeptical that Iran is actually going to come to the negotiating table and somehow negotiate something that will end their nuclear ambitions. And if you listen to all the rhetoric, all the language going on this week during the funerals, 5 days of funeral for Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, you heard calls from various officials talking about that Iran should never give up its nuclear ambitions or its uranium, enriched uranium. You heard calls for essentially assassinating President Trump. And these are government officials that were saying this. When you put that together, you go, well, there's a lot of reason for pessimism that we're going to be able to achieve this diplomatically, which goes back to, can we achieve it militarily? And that's an entirely different equation.
Would that mean going to some of those nuclear sites where the nuclear dust still remains, or could that mean something else?
There's been a number of reports that there may have been a plan, there may have been a partially executed plan to actually do that, to actually go to one or more of those sites where they have enriched uranium and to try and take it down or take that site, remove the uranium militarily. I have to tell you, that is a very difficult mission. A lot of people don't appreciate just how big Iran is. It is a huge country. It has a lot of challenging terrain. It's not someplace, it's much larger than certainly Iraq, much larger than Kuwait was or is. And so we're looking at the tyranny of distance, along with the fact you have a nation with 90 million people. You have this huge security and military apparatus that's out there. So getting in there and militarily seizing that uranium was going to be a very challenging mission, to say the least. Now, if there's one country that can pull that off, that's the United States. We have the forces, we have the resources to do that. But I would imagine somewhere like the Joint Planning Group at SOCOM, Special Operations Command, is working on things right now, trying to come up with a solution.
So there's been a lot of news coming out about this peace process, these negotiations, I suppose. The AP saying this: the U.S. is demanding that Iran publicly say that ship traffic in the Strait of Hormuz has been fully restored. They also quote U.S. officials as saying that they are making progress negotiating with top Iranian leaders. So as we come on the air tonight with that Wall Street Journal reporting saying that they're pessimistic in some aspects, there's also reports out there to say that there are still pieces of progress that are being made behind the scenes. But basically, the point of the AP reporting, what we're looking at right now, a number of other outlets have also said this: the U.S. is demanding that Iran publicly say that the strait is open. If Iran stops attacking ships, Hal, Does that solve the problem? Is that where these types of problems that have been coming up lately, is that where they've been beginning?
It doesn't eliminate the threat, and I would say if Iran publicly states that, that is but a partial solution. They have publicly stated a number of things and then never followed through. It's the problem with Iran is not what they say, it's what they actually do. So they could publicly state it, and then they continue to do the same things they're doing, which is sending out gunboats to turn back ships trying to transit the strait, sending out gunboats that actually go into Omani territorial water to push back ships, reference the same, laying mines, using missiles or drones. So it's publicly stating is part of it. It's good to get them on record. I don't know that that will change the behavior or conduct. The other problem is, and keeps coming up over and over again, are with whom we're negotiating with doesn't seem to be the shot callers in Tehran, so to speak, that they are agreeing to things and then they go back and General Vahidi and the Revolutionary Guard Corps kind of does whatever they're going to do, regardless of whatever the negotiators had agreed to. And so there's a real problem there, and that kind of goes back to the first question about their nuclear ambitions and getting an agreement on that. Is we're talking to folks who don't appear to be having the wherewithal to really negotiate on behalf of Iran or the government of Iran, the current regime, in a meaningful way, because they agree to stuff, they go back, and they're immediately second guessed either in words or action or both.
So you bring that up. I have some reporting from the Newswire in front of me, the AP reporting this. I'll read it verbatim. They say American officials are blaming a power struggle in Iran for recent attacks on ships, saying that there are hardline officials in Iran who are looking to undermine the ceasefire, and those people have helped spur a new round of attacks in the Strait. I believe that's what you're getting at. Is that one of the chief challenges with negotiating with Iran? I mean, we're talking about working with a government that isn't exactly uniform, correct?
It's not exactly uniform. It's very tough. And, it's interesting because the folks we're talking to, they're not moderates by any means. They are fairly extreme in and of themselves. And in one case, Galibov, he used to be a general with the Revolutionary Guard Corps. So he comes from that particular part of their regime, if you will. That was what he was brought up in. And so when you're talking to these guys, you say, well, he's a little bit more moderate than the current Revolutionary Guard Corps folks. And that is really saying, it's you got these radicals on one side, and then you have the further radicals that are out there. And the problem is they are extremists, and they have a very difficult time giving up these things, which have always been core components of how the regime and how the Revolutionary Guard Corps identifies itself, how it identifies its purpose, if you will, and we're asking them to give that up. The other thing, too, is now that they have somewhat taken control of the Strait of Hormuz, they like that. As some have said, it kind of gives them an alternative nuclear weapon. It kind of gives them a piece of leverage that they never imagined they could ever have, and they do not want to give that up. So they are fighting tooth and nail to maintain some control of the Strait of Hormuz, and that is a very, very big sticking point, and that's apparently where our negotiations are starting, which is you agreed to this, you didn't follow through, are you going to agree to it? We'll see if we can get something significant, substantive, going in that direction, and then I think we'll work on the other issues.
What's the correct way to label this conflict for now? Is it accurate to still call this a ceasefire?
I don't know. I just call it the war in Iran. To me, it's a lull in the war. It's lower intensity part of it. It's not the high intensity stuff that we saw prior to April 11th, but it's still going on. There's still kinetic action. There's still strikes happening back and forth. But wars do tend to ebb and flow, and this is an ebb, and we certainly saw some flowing this last week. We'll see how long this ebb lasts.
Finally, Barack Ravid with Axios says President Trump spoke on Friday with MBS, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, and Trump discussing the negotiations with Iran and the situation in Hormuz. Hal, in general, how do the Saudis likely want to see this entire thing play out? What are they looking for in the long run?
They'd like to see the Strait of Hormuz open, and they want to see oil and everything else flowing through the strait, just like it was before the war started. And that's what they want. And they would certainly feel very strong. They do feel very strongly that Iran should never have a nuclear weapon. That's also something they very much want. So that is their position. I'm sure they're backing up everything we're doing to reopen the strait. And I would point out that they have a fairly large military force, especially in strike aircraft, and they could do things that other Gulf countries can't do simply because of the size of their armed forces.
Hal Kempfer with us. Hal and I are going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to be back in a moment. There's a lot more to discuss, including some of the questions surrounding President Trump's new Air Force One plane. Take a look. You might recognize, a different coloration on the new Air Force One plane. They just unveiled it in recent weeks. It has been making the rounds and carrying the president from event to event as of late. But it came up in the news in recent days that the president did not travel on this plane over some specific concerns by the Secret Service as they were going to do a flight over the Atlantic Ocean with the president aboard. A lot of questions about the new plane that was gifted by the Qataris. Let's take a quick commercial break. I'm Austin Westfall. Hal and I are going to come back in about 2 minutes.